Well, in the past few hours, we have confirmed that former Democratic State Senator Tim Cullen has passed away at the age of 80. He represented Janesville between 2011 and 2015. Before that, he served in the Senate between 1975 and 1987. He was a graduate of Janesville High School in 1962 and UW-Whitewater in 1966. Governor Tony Evers released a statement saying, in part, Cullen, quote, advocated fiercely for nonpartisan redistricting and access to the ballot box during both his time in the Wisconsin State Senate and beyond it. He spent much of his life working to end partisan gerrymandering and fighting for Wisconsin to have fair maps at long last. And former state senator George Petak also passed away. Governor Evers called Petak a man of faith, courage, and principle. He served from 1991 to 1996 and is best known for being the deciding vote in the legislature that funded what was then Miller Park. That vote ultimately cost him his seat. He was recalled a year later.